it's amazing. You know, it's mainly just very humbling that I could be in this position to never really have to worry about finances. There's always going to be stresses and problems in life, and money does not buy happiness, it's a choice. But it's really nice to never have to worry about it, and to have that one stress out of your life for good because of a great opportunity like ACN. What we can realize is that without the courage to do it, you're never going to know. Because that's really the only thing that holds people back, is perhaps a little bit of fear of the unknown or the fear of failure. My father used to always say, you can't hit a home run unless you swing the bat. You got to go for it. And that attitude is what got me started at ACN. And that's the only way that you're going to connect big, is if you go for it.
It's very exciting to be here today in Seoul, Korea. This is my first time training on the national stage anywhere other than North America. And what a huge group this is. This is amazing. As a matter of fact, my first convention in North America, in Los Angeles, California, 10 years ago, was the same size as this very meeting. And now we have over 20,000 people that come to our conventions. So that's a very exciting thing to see where this group is going to grow to. Mr. Danny Bay is a good friend of mine. We've actually worked together for quite some time. I've also had the good fortune of spending time with his family. He's got 3 beautiful children, and I lived in Las Vegas, just down the street from him, for about a year. And so we go way back at ACN, and you're very lucky to have someone as incredible as Mr. Danny Bay leading the charge out here in Korea. And I want you to help me show my appreciation to Mr. Danny Bay as the Vice President of Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, ACN has been life-changing for me and my family, and I have the pleasure of telling you a little bit about my story. So, growing up, I grew up in a middle-class family, and my father was a colonel in the Army, my mother was a registered nurse, and we had a great life, although I was what I considered poor. My parents were very good to us. Now, I had 5 sisters, so technically they were middle class, I was lower class. And I always wanted to have more in life. And so, growing up, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. Now, when I was at the gym earlier, I was watching professional Korean baseball, so I know that's something that you know about. It's big money in America, and I thought I could be a millionaire, and I could play all the time and never have a job. And that would be the excitement of being a professional baseball player. Well, I was pretty good at baseball. I got a scholarship at the University of Utah to play baseball, except I sat on the bench. I did not play. And so, although I had earned a scholarship for my education, I knew baseball was not going to pay the bills, and at that point in my time, I was very depressed. Also, I had just returned from a 2-year mission for my church. I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ, and you might even see missionaries like that in Korea, because some of my friends went to Korea on their missions. I went to Germany to do missionary work. But my friend that went to Korea, he taught me how to say 안녕하세요. So I knew that before Danny Bay even. When I came back from my mission, I went to play baseball. I knew I wasn't going to be a professional baseball player anymore. And so now I thought, for the first time in my life, I'm going to have a job. You see, my entire life, I never had a job. I always just played baseball. Now, I did a little bit of construction work in the summertime for my father. I did concrete and I fixed roofs, and that was the hardest 2 weeks of my life. But to have a real job scared me to death. I was depressed. I thought, I'm gonna have to go out and work like everybody else. And at that time in my life, someone came up to me and said, how would you like to get paid when people pay their bills? How would you like to have a home-based business? How would you like to work your own schedule? No matter how busy you are, you can fit this in. And how would you like to make some extra money? I said, this is perfect. This is exactly what I'm looking for. And so I came to my first network marketing meeting, my first ACN meeting. I was so excited about the information that I heard at the meeting, I couldn't believe it. Now, I was not in a situation to be a businessman. I was a college student. I did not have an income. I did not have a car. And it's very abnormal in my city to not have a car. There's no public transportation, so I rode a bicycle. Also, I did not have an office or a computer. I didn't have most of the resources that business owners would have. I was young. I didn't have any credit. And so the thought of being a business owner, or the likelihood of me succeeding in business, very slim. But I love the ACN business because all you need to know how to do is get a couple customers. And all you need to know how to do is bring people to a meeting, and you're able to have success. So, sitting there at my first meeting, it was in a hotel. There was a couple hundred people there. I said, I want to do this, and I got started immediately. Now, I learned the business plan very quickly. The first thing I learned was how to become an ETT. That's the first thing that I learned. The next thing that I learned after how to become an ETT was how to sell more additional services, more additional products and services. And within about a month, I became an executive team trainer, and I only spent a few nights a week, and all I had to do was bring people to the meeting. That's all that I had to do. And so I called a few of my friends and I said, hey, do you want to make extra money? Now, I'm going to rewind a little bit. After my first presentation, the first thing I did was call 2 people that were very successful and tell them everything that I could remember from the meeting. And their initial or immediate response was, we're not interested. And I became very disheartened. I became very sad. I couldn't believe that such a great business would not interest them. But what I realized is that I couldn't give the message. So I learned from the training that I'm not supposed to say too much. So I called up my next friend, and all I said was, would you like to make extra money? And he said yes. I said, great, come with me to a meeting. So I borrowed my sister's car. And I told him, I'm going to pick you up for the meeting. And he said, no, I'll meet you there. And I said, no, I know you, and you're a flake. I'm going to pick you up. And he said, no, I'll just meet you there. I said, no, I'm going to pick you up. And I drove around and I picked up him and everyone else that I invited for that meeting. So 5 of us went to the next business meeting. And that's how I got my first 2 business partners for ACN, for ETT. Now, after that, I learned the compensation plan and I made a couple $1,000s the next month as an ETT. I was excited. Well, with my excitement and my money that I had made, it interested my other friends. And everyone watching me said, if he can do it, we can do it too. And so all my friends started to join the business. All the contacts I had started joining the business. And I immediately became team coordinator in 90 days. Now, when I became a team coordinator in 90 days, my mother and father became very interested in ACN. See, before I asked them if they wanted to look at ACN, they said, no, thank you. After I showed them income that was bigger than their combined income, they said, we're now interested. You see, a lot of times, a no doesn't mean no. When someone tells you no, it means do it without me, then come back and get me. And my parents said, we want to do this with you. And I helped them become team coordinators 6 months from then. My mom was able to walk away from a full-time nursing career, as she had been a nurse forever, and she was able to go full-time with ACN. I was able to help other friends of mine become team coordinator, and I became a regional vice president in 11 months. Then I helped one person in each of my 4 lines become regional vice president as well. My parents became regional vice president. So who do you think their favorite child is today? Now, I literally was so excited that I've helped everyone make this money. However, I needed to start new lines. You see, SVP requires more lines than 4. It requires you have to start new legs. And so I'd already helped. I'd had momentum. I had massive momentum. But now that I had created a regional vice president in all 4 of my lines, I had to start a new line. I had to recreate momentum. And let me tell you something. It's not that easy. When you're out of phase 1, it's not that easy. And I had not done the things for quite some time that I was used to doing. And I remember there thinking, I was so discouraged. This is after 3 years of being in the business, I had to start recruiting and recreate momentum. Now, all of you guys would agree that creating momentum is the most important part of this business. And I created momentum in the beginning, and then once I had promoted all of my lines to regional vice president, I had to recreate momentum, and I had lost confidence. But what's hilarious is I can remember like it was yesterday, I had bought a big mansion. I was literally floating in my swimming pool, looking at my mansion. I had very nice cars in the driveway. My life was like living the dream. And I sat there thinking, does this business even work? What's my problem? I can't recreate momentum. So then I called the owners of ACN and I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do exactly the same things I did in the beginning to recreate momentum. And Mr. Greg Provenzano said, I want you to take a journal and track everything you're doing. So if it works, you can teach other people how to create momentum. 6 months from that phone call, I became a senior vice president 6 months after they created the position of SVP. And I was so excited that I was able to recreate momentum. So I'm going to tell you some of the steps that I remember, that I learned to create that momentum. The first thing is you need to prepare for momentum. Make a new contact list. Add new names on those contacts. You have to acquire 50 customers. You have to acquire 50 customers because you can't be an expert to teach your entire organization unless you know what's going on, unless you understand the products. You also, most importantly, cannot have any fear. You have to realize that no matter what happens to you, the worst thing is someone will say no. And I promise you, whatever you're doing in ACN, no one is going to die. You could have people tell you this is stupid. You could have people be negative. But who cares? You have to have an attitude that doesn't matter. You can't really give a care. The first step in creating momentum is you must personally recruit. Here is what often people misunderstand. Recruiting is just inviting. You invite the most people, you get the most people to the meetings, you make the most money. So if you're not a good inviter, if you're not good at inviting, role play. Master inviting, because it's a numbers game. Set up presentations. I call them 2-on-1 presentations when someone takes me to go present to their friend. 2 people in the business, 1 person looking at the business. You want to set up those presentations all the time. Team up with a great presenter so when you go after your contacts, you can invite people to a meeting. But if they can't come to the meeting, you can take your presenter to them. I always say 3 presentations a day is a good amount to do when creating momentum. Now, the next thing is we have a DVD. You can just press play and show someone the ACN business without even getting them to a presentation. But understand, you are 1 recruit away from a massive explosion in your business. So if you're depressed, if you're sad because your momentum is not where you would like it to be, just know that when you continue to talk to people, when you continue to invite people, you'll get 1 person to join that's excited, even after 50 people say no. When 1 person joins your team that's excited, it can carry you to the next level. You can earn money off that momentum for years. It's worth going through the numbers. The second step of creating momentum is to share the vision with the new person. What's the best way to share the vision? Right now. This is an amazing vision here today. I walked in those back steps and I was blown away. I took out my camera, started taking pictures of the screen, the setup. It was unbelievable. This is an amazing vision. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my vision in a second. Regional trainings every single month are a way to share someone the vision. Obviously the international training or the national training. But the most important thing to remember is you must sacrifice to get your people to the vision. When we started, I told this to my mother. I said, you must get your people to the vision. She said, where's the next regional training? I said, it's in Los Angeles, which is a 10-hour trip from Salt Lake City where I live. She lived 5 more hours north in Idaho. I had rented buses to get all my people to the convention. She would drive 5 hours. Then she would bus 10 hours with us. On the way home, the meeting was only 4 hours long. She would get back on the bus, go 10 hours home, and then she would drive 5 more hours to her house. 30 hours of travel for a 4-hour meeting. That's commitment and that's sacrifice. But guess what? She's going to be a senior vice president by the end of this year.